season 2 of Life is Blurry with our very first episode here. Pumped to have you guys back. It's been a wild ride recording season 1 and then taking some time to regroup, but we are back in action for season 2, and we've made a few changes to the podcast. First and foremost, let me introduce not only myself, Shake Chatterjee, but my wonderful co-host, Emily Wilson.
Hey guys.
Yes, so my girlfriend, Emily Wilson, has now hopped on the pod as my co-host. We're very excited about having her, and you guys will find out why as we get going here. And we decided to bring a fan favorite back for our season 2 premiere, none other than Zachary Reality, who puts the T in reality. So thank you, Zach, for being back with us today. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you? Yeah, a lot of people say that they want me to change my username to Reality, like TEA, but I just kind of think that's a little overdone. But some people also like look at my username and think I'm like a real estate agent, so I am considering it.
Oh, realty. I got it.
I've gotten it a few times. I'm like, definitely not, but I do like real estate agent reality shows.
Yeah.
Oh, same.
Well,
I know.
In this day and age, it never hurts to have a side hustle. So
Okay.
maybe you can do some $1 million listings around LA. You never know.
Yeah, catch me on the next season of Selling Sunset.
There you go.
I love Selling Sunset.
So Zach, you're based out of LA. You're living in LA.
Mm-hmm.
For those that aren't very familiar with Zach from season 1 or otherwise, Zach is plugged up in all things reality. When I had him on season 1, I knew of him, but I hadn't really been following him like I am now, like I have been for the past several months. I didn't really realize just how into the reality scene he is. So we're talking the Bachelor franchise. We're talking any show on Bravo, and then obviously Netflix has become kind of this reality powerhouse, and Zach has found himself right in the middle of all that.
All of it.
All of it.
You might as well put me on one of the shows because I'm just so ingrained in everything. And like low-key, I find myself in the drama sometimes too, but never publicly.
Yeah.
So I find my way to keep out of it too, but I really know everything that's going on. But you didn't know much of me before when we did our first podcast. So like, I'm wondering what do you think of me now versus what you knew? Like, what were the preconceived notions?
Well, it wasn't preconceived notions. I mean, I just didn't fully appreciate how plugged in you are to everything. I mean, almost to like a personal level.
Because Shake's not like a reality person. Like until the show, he doesn't follow it. So he had no idea. I was like, wait, Zachary Reality. I know who that is. When he told me the first time. And he was like, I have no idea because he just doesn't follow it. I mean, obviously now he does a little bit more. But
yeah, that's a good point. And that's, I think, something I wish more people knew. I have, well, I should say had little to no experience with reality TV. It was hard for me to really understand what went on behind the scenes and how it really worked. Whereas I think a lot of people who watch reality TV, they're like, oh, that's the producers doing this, or oh, that's like, I didn't freaking know. People are always like, oh, you knew what you were getting yourself into. I was like, maybe I should have, but I didn't. Like,
Yeah, and I remember last time I was like trying to break things down to you about like how each role works in reality TV. Like you were cast as the villain, and while you did a lot of villainous quote unquote things throughout the show, it was also your character that was going to be exaggerated and depicted on the show, which is what they have on every reality show. So what I kind of do on my channels and my TikTok, not only am I like an entertainment host, but I also kind of break down like the behind the scenes of each show, and I talk to a lot of contestants behind the scenes, and I'm able to tell their stories while they are contractually obligated. So I'm kind of able to play that middleman role, and I think that's what has really attributed to my success.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that
I think you need to start just doing these like cameo pop-ups where it'll be like Selling Sunset and you'll just be like showing the house. You're like, oh yeah, actually this is my house. Like you need to just start showing up in all the different shows.
For sure. Every single show. Have you guys seen Selling the OC?
No, that is like in my queue. I need to start that.
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm excited.
Okay, because I know some have come out and they haven't really hit the mark. I know some of them kind of fallen fallen
No, it's
flat.
really good.
Yeah, the
Um,
dated and related fell flat. That just came out. It
Mhm.
was like siblings dating each other or like dating other people on like an island.
Ooh,
yeah, it's
That
pretty
one fell flat, but Selling the OC has a lot of potential, so
yeah,
definitely check that one out.
okay. Sounds good.
definitely.
Speaking of falling flat,
Great segue. Great
yeah,
segue.
yeah. Um, let's just take a moment to talk about now that, everything's out in the open, how my season of Love is Blind was just an ultimate flop. And I kind of saw this from the inside. I saw it happen, I saw it unfold. I think the general public had a tougher time seeing what I saw, but I would say after watching After the Altar, I think more people kind of see how kind of cringe my castmates are. I mean, not all of them, but most of them. I think people, I was the villain of season 2. People found it easy to attack me, but what that did was it kind of took attention away from the cringe elsewhere. And there was plenty of cringe. I think we can all agree. So, one thing I'm hoping we can do by having you on here, I kind of want to just lay After the Altar, Love is Blind. I want to lay this all to rest because there's more to me than that. Now I have a, wonderful girlfriend and co-host. We don't want to harp on the Love is Blind stuff forever. However, I do think now that it's all out in the open, I want to talk about After the Altar. And I think we should probably also talk about Deepti's book, huh? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
we'll talk about Deepti's book, which you read. So I'm going to ask you a little bit about it. But I think that I think that Love Is Blind season 2 was really good. I think After the Altar was a flop. The
Yeah,
yeah,
Love Is
yeah.
Blind was amazing. Like that was
it
just like
was.
a time. Like it was
Mhm.
just like everybody in the entire country was talking about it. But when it came
Right.
to After the Altar, I think there was a few issues with it. But the biggest issue, I think, as someone who watches the show, is that it came out way too late, where nothing was
Mhm.
updated in real time, and it didn't even feel fair to the contestants either, who have been dating other people and they had to hide their relationships for like a year. So I think that was like the
Mhm.
biggest issue, versus also the fact that a lot of the cast just didn't seem to want to engage in the drama or just like really give us a show. They kind of just gave the bare minimum.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it. I mean, having been a part of that, production and knowing the cast, I think a lot of it is also people you said they don't want to put on a show. I think they are putting on a show.
Well, you, you,
They're
you
they're
could say that.
faking a show, faking a storyline. In some cases, I've been very open about this, faking a whole relationship,
Ooh.
Deepti and Kyle in particular. So, yeah, I think it became very obvious and After the Altar just how far some of these characters, individuals were willing to go to kind of milk that 15 minutes
Mhm.
of fame. Um, everybody going on a reality wants some degree of fame. I mean, myself included. I'm not going
For
to
sure.
deny that. It was an exciting opportunity to go, but my desire and my drive to like get this fame and publicity, it had a limit, and I reached that limit and I was like, okay, I'm cool. But what I noticed with some of my castmates is, once they got a taste of that dirty reality fame, they would say or do or pretend anything it took to kind of like keep it going.
And
And
Part
how
of
much
me
of that? Oh, what were you going to say, Emily?
I was gonna say, I just thought of this now. Part of me thinks it should have been under contract that all of the kind of final people on Love is Blind that they had to go to the After the Altar.
like if
Because
they
I
wanted them to make me go, is that what you're
yeah, like
saying?
part of me thinks that because I think it would have if they had done it a lot, put it out a lot sooner. I also think that if they had had it in the contract that everyone who was at the end, kind of at the reunion, let's say, had to then be an After the Altar, because I think it would have been. I mean, Shake obviously he'll tell you this, but he elected not to do it, and we elected not to do it. We were both asked, but and I'm glad we didn't do it now, but I think that if Sheik had been there and if, Shane, it would have been fun to see like Shane and Natalie, have to talk to one another. If it was part of
Yeah.
it, it would have been a lot better.
Well, I think like my biggest question that I haven't asked you, Shake, is that it felt like a lot of people said that they weren't going to go to the house if you were there. Like
Mhm.
there was people refusing to film with you. So like how much
Mhm.
validity is to that, and would you still have gone, would they actually have left the house or not filmed if you were really there?
Yeah, good question. So, um, I shared on my Instagram a couple
We were
times now,
invited.
actually, some screenshots with the producers saying like, "Hey, I'm sitting this out." So, what I've come to understand of how a lot of this works, they took that information and they made storyline out of it. Right? They knew I wasn't going to come. They had to explain my absence, and so
Okay.
that was a storyline. Um, that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, that's kind of just how it works. Does that
But
answer your question?
how much of these storylines are actually made up by the contestants versus the producers? Because I feel like these producers are the ones kind of, puppeteering and micromanaging everything. So how much blame, I guess, do you put on the contestants for the flop?
Well, no, I mean, just to like flesh out what we were talking about, I think it was the producers who gave him the idea of like, all right, we got to explain why Shake's not here. But it was the cast's decision to like, I'm not going if Shake's gonna like it. Like that, they kind of ran with it. I don't blame them after that reunion. And I don't blame them because they know if I'm there, I'm gonna call out their bullshit. You know, they're they're not safe with me there because
Yeah.
I'm not gonna play along with their wink wink storylines anymore. You know what I mean?
Well,
Um,
yeah, and literally, I mean, no shade to like everybody who was on the show, but it did feel like there were certain conversations that people refused to have, and there was a lot of dancing around the
Mhm.
subject when it came to certain situations. I might disagree, but I felt like the realest people on the show were Ayana and Jarrett because they were the ones that were opening up about their relationship struggles, which I thought gave us some more context into what actually led to their divorce, since that was kind of shocking, I think, for the average viewer. But then a lot of other people on the
mhm,
show just didn't really address, the issues that they had. It was frustrating as a viewer to not see Natalie and Shane film a scene, or Natalie and Shayna clear things up, or even Mallory and Sal
Mhm.
clear things up. And I mean, Danielle and Nick seemed super happy. Obviously, it was filmed months ago before they kind of announced their divorce. So it was just kind of confusing, I think, with the timeline of when this was actually filmed. And I think now
Mhm.
the average viewer is so much smarter. We follow these people on social media, so Netflix needs to just do a better job of releasing these episodes sooner.
Mhm.
yeah, I think that played a big role, but I will just go back on record to say I think the biggest problem was we have a very disingenuous cast here that's very, very, I would say, hyper aware of their image and what it takes to protect their image. And when you have that kind of hyper awareness, you sacrifice a lot of authenticity, which is what happened. Um, that's my take on it. As far as Ayana and Jarrett being real, I did appreciate them
Mhm.
opening up on camera. That's not an easy thing to do. Um, you know, it almost makes sense to me now why they both felt the need to attack me at the reunion, because I didn't know this was going on between them. And the reunion was filmed in March, and so was After the Altar. So really close up. So now looking back, I'm like, were you guys attacking me because you were so unstable in your own relationship that I don't know, sometimes people will to try and seem more secure in their own relationship, attack something else. That's kind of
Mhm.
what it feels like to me now, looking back
Well,
and
I did
watching
kind
it.
of I remember telling you last time that like obviously like you were the villain, right? But I think that when you are a villain, it does get exploded because people use you as like their shield because all the attention was on
Right.
you. So maybe they were like trying to hide what was really going on in their relationship, or other people just kind of wanted to, not make them the focus, because once you're the focus and you're the forefront, like you are the center of the show, you are all of the drama. So with you not being there, we did get a closer look into what actually was going on with other people. But I still wanted you
Mhm.
to show up. Like it would have just been so iconic. I don't know if you
Right.
watched After the Altar from season one, but they actually had Francesca
Mhm.
show up. She was from Too Hot to Handle, and
Oh, I
it
heard
was
about
just
Oh
that.
like,
my god.
it made the show, like it made it dramatic and it made it fun. And I think with this cast, they were just kind of over it. I just don't think they wanted to I mean, you say they were putting on a show. I
Yeah.
don't think they wanted to give us a dramatic show. I think they just wanted to play it safe.
I also would have loved to see them in a different setting. Like it was, they were in that, cabin, winter abode. And it would have been fun to see them like doing something cooler. I don't know. I just would have loved to see like them kind of forced to interact a little bit more. Like I would have loved to see if they had left Chicago and been somewhere else and see Shane and Natalie like have to be on the beach together kind of a thing.
If
Like
it was
I
on a
would have
beach, I would have gone.
yeah, like, I would have loved to see
It was a free
just a little bit
vacation.
of a different setting.
If it was a
Yeah.
free
Yeah,
vacation to
exactly.
Mexico, Shake and Emily would have been there. Well, what do you think, like,
Right,
what do you
right.
think, Shake? Like, what was your biggest issue watching it? Like, who do you want to kind of call out and speak your piece on? Because I know you want to speak your piece on the show and feel like you're alluding to things, but I think the audience wants you to just say straight up because that's what you're known for.
Sure,
Like,
sure. Sure. So first easiest thing, Kyle and Deeps, totally fake, orchestrated relationship. They both kind of, I mean, you could say, got dealt bad hands on the actual show because it didn't work out with either of their people. They kind of formed this alliance and decided, hey, we can both have more relevancy if we date each other, right? Dating somebody off the show, yeah, that's something, but nothing's going to get fans and people talking like if we were dating each other, right?
and the
Now,
speculation of not
in
confirming or denying, but was that set up by producers or was that set up by them?
it's totally by them. It's totally by them.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you heard about these divorces happening. I mean, you can talk about leading up to the marriages and the show coming out, we're not supposed to talk about it. But afterwards, it's like, yeah, live your life, man. Like if that's how it's gonna be, it's not that huge of a deal.
Mhm.
Um Now I will say this, intertwined in that, Deepti did have feelings for Kyle,
Hmm.
right? She actually wanted something there. Kyle never had anything genuine for Deepti, but Kyle knew that Deepti was riding high from this season, ton of relevancy, ton of followers, and he saw that as an opportunity. He saw that as an opportunity to, date one of the more popular characters from the show, ride that as long as he could, and then go their separate ways.
Has
So,
Kyle done any interviews or podcasts?
I don't know. I
He
I
really don't
has
know.
I've seen some articles where
Okay.
he's basically just said, like, things about Shake, but, I
Okay.
think that he kept saying stuff about how Shake's calling him and stuff and how he's reaching out to the whole cast, which is not true. There's something
Never.
going on where Shake's phone is, like, ringing all the time with these numbers. It's like people are pranking them.
It'll pop up on my phone. It'll say Kyle. It'll say Shane. It'll say
Yeah.
Mel. All the time. I mean, the
And
very
so I think
first
that's what's happening with Kyle, thinking that Shake's calling him.
Okay.
probably
He's
the
prank
very
calling you.
first time it happened, I was like, well, I don't think it's actually Kyle. I think
It's like a spam thing.
Okay.
someone somewhere is like connecting the two numbers. You know what I mean? Like a three-way call. I don't really know how it works, but I will say in the past, I've actually gotten a call. It says dad calling, and it's like the same thing. Like somebody can pose as that number. I'm not sure. Um, but okay, that's number one. Let's get that out of the way. That was a huge sham relationship. Number two, let's talk about Sal. Okay.
This
Sal,
is what I wanted your opinion on, Zach.
Okay.
without a doubt, the cringiest dude off camera was always Sal. Like he has this persona of like, yeah, oh yeah, let me play my ukulele. Yeah, I'm a sensitive guy. Like, yeah, you have to be in tune with your feelings. But like it's a total facade. Like he would say the dumbest, most off-color things off camera. I mean, he has better self-preservation than me, I would say. Like he would make sure it was off camera when he was saying these dumb things. But seeing what I saw came as no surprise to me. I think it came as a huge surprise to a lot of the viewers who were like, "Oh, Sal, you're this soft-spoken, quiet, sensitive musician, though." But no, it's like this is Sal. Like he's a tool, like a complete tool. I mean, he was dating somebody when the show was first being filmed, and then he felt the need if he's in this happy, secure relationship, why is he blasting Mallory with some old stuff that like really has no relevance at this stage in the game? And then him and his girlfriend,
That scene
that's a whole
was
nother thing. I don't,
uncalled
That
for.
was so it was so uncalled for, and that's what, Sheik obviously asked me, he said, "I really don't wanna do this, but what do you think?" And I said, "No," point blank, I didn't even consider it because I just knew that it would be another way to bash, Sheik the whole time, but also
or you too. Yeah.
to bash me. So,
Yeah,
seeing her walk in that, like, lingerie type outfit, I just was like it was just so hard to watch because when you're coming in as, the new girlfriend,
You have a
whatever,
target
you
already.
already have that target. I couldn't believe that she wore that outfit.
That was on her,
Yeah,
right?
that was on her,
If we were gonna
obviously.
do this, I would have been like, babe,
No,
like we
of
want to we
course.
want to look good, but like we don't want to like come in
It
here
was bizarre.
like the assholes. You know what I mean?
It was bizarre and it was rude the way
wow.
she spoke to Mallory. I thought that was really rude. I
Well,
didn't like
she
that.
seemed
If
like she was, like, really drunk and nervous. I felt like
Mhm,
Mallory was, like, really being patient with her, but did you know what happened with her? She ended up
mhm.
getting so much hate that all these, like, Love is Blind
Yeah,
fans reported her Instagram, and it got deactivated.
mhm.
Oh, is
Yeah.
that what happened?
Yeah,
I
and then
know she has, like, an OnlyFans
she has
now
an
and
OnlyFans, but Sal put up a post about it. He put up a long caption saying that, him and Jesse were dating for like 9 months. They had to hide their relationship and that, like, Jesse, blah, 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 like just defending their relationship and defending her. And then I don't even know how many people can report your Instagram to actually get it deactivated, but I'm going to check if it's back
Listen,
up.
wow.
I got a lot of shit too, and I'm surprised mine didn't get deactivated. They must actually hate
Do
her
you
more
think
than they
because it
hated
was
me.
verified?
Oh, maybe because I was verified. Yeah, that probably helps
Oh,
you
true. I
a
don't
little
even
bit.
know how they could deactivate her.
Yeah, that is I just felt I honestly felt bad for Mal in that, and I don't know, I've met Shayna. I actually
We
did
love Shayna.
yeah, I love her. We did meet Natalie because we were passing her in the
Oh, tell
street,
her about that.
and I'll
And
tell that story, but,
Yeah.
yeah, her
I haven't
Instagram's
met
back up.
okay. Yeah, I just felt really bad for Mel in that situation. I was like, it was just so uncalled for. The whole outfit, the whole situation of her trying to basically talk down to Mallory, it was really disrespectful.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact if I had gone in there, I would have just been nothing but nice to Deepti. I would have just given her a big hug. I would have said, "Hope you're doing well." That would have been it.
Not that we like Deepti over
Right, of
here. We don't.
course,
We really don't.
but
But
that's just how you behave. You don't need to be that was just bizarre. I felt really bad for Mallory in that
Would
position,
you
and I
have
also that just
teamed
reiterated
up
that
with
I
Jesse, Emily? Like, what was your, who would you have vibed with the
no,
most?
I mean, definitely Shayna. I mean,
yeah,
we're friends, I really like her. We're gonna see
they text all
her.
the time.
Yeah, I really like her a lot. She'll be in Miami soon. We'll be going to dinner with her and stuff. But she's awesome. I would have definitely stayed away from Jesse, I think, especially given that whole lingerie thing. I just was could not cannot get behind.
Yeah, I mean, they looked good, but it just wasn't the time
It
or
was
place for that.
bizarre.
You
But
know.
Gotcha.
anyway,
What are your thoughts on the Danielle and Nick divorce? Because this kind of came out of nowhere, I think, for the general public
mhm,
that was just kind of following them. And they also didn't like announce their divorce at first. It actually got leaked because I guess Danielle filed, and once you file for
mhm.
divorce, it's like a public document. So they didn't
Yeah.
announce it before. Like fans actually found out that it was, through the legal documents that they were getting divorced.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, that relationship in a lot of ways was held together by duct tape and paper clips, I think the excitement of the show, the lights, the cameras, I think that kind of keeps couples together longer than they should, you know? And I think this is just a classic example of people that were incompatible that tried their very best to make it work because the upside was so big, you know, to be like a Lauren and Cameron. Um, and I get what that's like too. I mean, here's a tidbit for you. So, leading up to our
Do
wedding,
tell.
leading up to our
Mhm.
wedding,
The tea.
Deepti would often come to me and say, "Hey, what if we just said fuck it and got married? Like we could be the next Lauren and Cameron. Don't you want that? We could get divorced in a year. We could just get married and get divorced in a year." And I'm like, "That's not the pretense under which I want to get married. Like, I'm sorry, but no, no, there's no way." Um, and she also said, "You know, you're probably gonna not do so well if we don't get married. You're probably gonna get
Oof.
canceled. If I were you, I would think about just getting married. It could really be good for your image to marry me." And again, not that there isn't validity to what she's saying. It probably would have looked better if we got married, but that's not why you marry someone. That's not why you marry
Oh, for
someone.
sure.
And I,
I mean, getting married for TV is ridiculous. I think getting engaged is like one thing,
Ridiculous.
especially if
Yeah.
it's a free ring. It's like the proposal set up, like you can kind of
Mhm.
say it, but that still is like such a big deal. I think a lot of people wait their whole lives for that moment. So I can't even imagine doing
Right.
that just for TV. But I do want to say that, like
yeah,
with the Danielle and Nick divorce, I know that Danielle like gave it her all. I know that it was really hard for her, like this
Mhm.
entire experience. She's opened up about struggling with mental health. So I do want to
Yeah.
wish like her and Nick the best, and maybe
Of
they'll
course.
open up
sure.
more about it. Not too sure. But it sounds like you're itching to talk about Deepti, so I want to talk about her book that you read. I have
Mm,
not read it.
Mhm.
She wrote about you in the book, which so you have the right to kind of address that and defend that. And I know you don't want to
mhm,
Mhm.
like talk about it too much, but we're here to kind of lay everything to bed. So why don't you both kind of talk about like
Mhm.
what
yeah,
was read in the book? Give us like the spark notes. What was said about you?
sure, sure, yeah, and you did a great job of summarizing it. I'm not on the one hand, it's not like I want to be like, here's this book and like, do I want to like bring publicity to her book? No, I don't. Right. So like, on the one hand, it's like, I don't really want to talk about the book. But on the other hand, the same reason I had to buy it and read it, there's a lot about me in the book.
A
Right. So
lot.
like, it's like, you know, I'll put it to you this way. Let's talk about this book so you don't have to read it. I'll give you the
Mhm.
highlights. And for anybody listening here, this is I hope you'll bear with me as I speak openly about the book.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to bash this book, but I'm just going to speak openly about it. Number one, I think this was a thinly veiled, if veiled at all, cash grab
Mhm.
move. Okay, it came out days after the altar, um, with this like fake Kyle and Deep D relationship all hanging in the air. You got to wait for this day. You got to wait for
Mhm.
my book release day. And then the same day she releases the book is when they announce their breakup and so on and so forth. So, like, from the start,
It's a
I'm
good
already just
PR.
kind of
There's a
like,
PR line. It's a
Right,
yeah.
tagline.
And
right.
like, and it's pretty easy to see for anybody who's watching that that's part of the angle here. To me, I'm no English major myself, okay? But me reading this book, it felt like somebody was asked to do their high school autobiography, right? Like a junior in high school was told, okay, class, we have an assignment due next Wednesday, 90-page minimum. I want an autobiography. So here we go. And then the little students went home and they just wrote out everything they possibly could, whether it's worthy of, being published and, submitted to Amazon or not. These are my stories and I'm just going to blah, 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 blah. Like
So
literal excerpts from the.
what did she say about you? That's what everybody wants to know.
I know. I know. Okay. We're going to get to that. Yeah. So Emily and I both kind of read. I read more than she did, but we both
Mhm.
read the parts about me because, like,
You
you
have
know,
to.
we
Yeah,
have
you
to.
have to.
To me, it's like this. Some of those things in the book were outright false, but more than that, there's a lot of things that were really stretched and exaggerated
Mhm.
and taken out of context. So let me go into that a little bit further. in order to release a book after having been on a Netflix show, especially a major Netflix show like this, it has to get some form of approval from Netflix, right? And in order to do that, you have to follow the storyline of the show. You can't outright contradict the narrative of the show, even if the narrative of the show is just a narrative that was created for entertainment, right? So there's things that really closely follow how the show went, but what's never mentioned is really significant things that would really change the viewer's opinion or the reader's opinion. Okay. So I think the classic example is just like going back to this wedding. I dropped some tea already about how leading up to the wedding, I told her, hey, I can't get there. I'm sorry. I cannot ever get to the point where I'm going to say yes.
Mhm.
I want you to say yes. Or sorry, I want you to say no because I don't want to be that guy, and
Mhm.
frankly, it's easier for the girl to say no than the guy, right? I mean, it's easier image wise, publicity wise. And I'm pretty secure in myself. I knew I'd be okay. I wanted her to have that, right? So that's never mentioned in the book, but I think that's a pretty darn important piece of information, right? If she knew leading up to the wedding that she was going to say no and that I knew that, that kind of changes how things play out. Um, and another great piece of evidence is after the wedding, after she chooses herself, we partied till 5 a.m. I think we talked about this on the last podcast we did.
Yeah.
We partied till 5 a.m. on my friend's yacht. And it was me, my groomsmen, her bridesmaids, all of us having a great time. Why were we able to have such a good time? It's because we knew going in that wedding was a no. We knew that. All parties knew that. Yet we had this opportunity where our friends and our family and the lights and cameras were all together. And we wanted to at least
Put on a
celebrate.
finale.
Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly. So, you know, it's upsetting to me that the book is framed in the way it is. Um, it's not a terribly big surprise again because I know she had to get some kind of prior approval for that, but it still doesn't change the fact that it's just kind of like a very one-sided, lopsided view. And I know there's a couple things Emily found. I don't know if you want to say entertaining or maybe even
Yeah.
shocking in some situations, but we took some
Yeah.
notes here.
I know. And
So
like I said, I didn't read it in close detail. I actually want to read it again to like really like not just skim over it. But yeah, I mean, it was just disappointing the way that she wrote things out. And I know that everyone has the right to give their perspective and, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it was disappointing the way that she framed things because obviously, I am dating Shake. I live with Shake and I know him very well at this point. I don't know her. I've seen her in passing once at a bar in Chicago. We kind of were like walking in, walking out
she
at the
did,
same
she did
time,
not respond
but
respond
I've
favorably.
never
Tell
seen
me about
her.
that.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
It was just in passing. Like Shake and I were actually coming from a wedding, and so we were inside the bar.
No,
And
no,
I
no,
think,
no.
did
We
she
were
walk
we were
in?
just outside
We were
Hopsmith
outside. Okay.
in Chicago, so I know the names of the places. Since
Mhm.
we're in line or just about to go into Hopsmith, and we see Deepti show up with her girl squad, and my first reaction is, "Oh my god, hey!" Like,
Mhm.
I don't like the girl. I really don't, especially after the way she's kind of carried on with this victim mentality and everything at my expense. But
Mhm.
nonetheless, I'm like, all right, here we are. Here's my girlfriend. I'm like, hey, like, hi. So I remember
Yeah.
exactly. Remember, she turns around and faces the
Right.
other way.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
girl squad forms like
Circles
a
around her.
circle around her and scowling at us. And I'm just like, oh, hey, Caitlin. Hey, like, I know some of these girls. I'm like, hey, like, I know if Deepti wasn't here and you saw me, you'd smile and wave to me, but now you're, team protect Deepti or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
it could have just been like a, hey, how are you? Could have been something civil.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Let's also talk about Natalie too. Before
Yeah, so that
that was
same time
the
we
same
ran
trip.
into Natalie, we were just because her building was super close to Shake's old building, or he still owns it. But so where we were staying and Shake's condo is like right across the street basically from where Natalie lives or
Or lived. Yeah.
used to live. And so we just ran into her and she literally we bumped into her like coming out of the grocery store and she gives me this huge hug and shake this huge hug. This was July
This is
around
like in
July
July,
4th.
just a couple months ago.
July 4th.
After all the stuff has been filmed, after the altar, where she's like, "Good luck finding love, Shake." That
Right.
stupid scene.
So anyway, so she gives me this huge hug. She's like, I've heard so much about you from Shake. You
What?
know, I'm
What?
like so excited to meet you. Oh my God, how are you? And in my head, I'm like, wait. And I, of course, I'm just always nice to everyone. I was like, oh, that's so nice. So nice to meet you. And in my head, I'm like, wait, I didn't think that Natalie and Shake,
Talked.
talked. But she's like saying,
I didn't think that
so
either.
fake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
she's like,
just
"I
so
know so
easy.
much
It's
about
just so
you."
easy for her to lie. That's the thing. It's just like second nature. She's like, Shake's told me everything about you. So excited to
Mhm,
finally meet you. And then
mhm.
afterwards, Emily's like, "You talk to Natalie?" I'm like, "Hell no. Hell no, I don't talk to Natalie."
Yeah.
So it just, I don't know. I just felt like that was a funny
Yeah, it
thing
was a
to bring
bummer.
up. It was weird for her to kind of like pretend that we're that cool. I think there's a
Mhm.
difference between just being like, "Oh, hi, you must be Emily," like
Right,
Shake and I clearly know each other, but it's just like, "Nope, I can lie about this." Boom.
right.
Mm,
And one thing I will say about the
Gotcha.
book is that, it was disappointing for me to read it, just she says things about Shake that I knew weren't true because 'cause we've gone over this a million times, kind of how things went down. But also just I think part of it was that and now we've obviously spoken about it, was that Shake wasn't, trying to marry her, wasn't necessarily in love with her. So he didn't treat her as someone he wanted to marry. And so one thing was like, obviously, they were living together. And so she would part of, she said, oh, I would make his lunch for work every day and I would, do this and that just to make sure he would come home and not be stressed out. And I'm like, my experience has been totally different from that because Shake actually wants to, have a relationship with
Yeah,
me.
I love
So
Emily.
he's the one who's like, he's the one who cooks you, he's the one who does this, he's the one who does that. And she just painted him as such a bad person around their apartment and around. And I was like, that is just such a different experience than what I've
Yeah.
had. But obviously, he was treating her a little bit differently than someone that he wants to, get
Marry.
married
Well,
to.
it's like this. It's like it's not like I ever treated her poorly. It's just you treat somebody differently when you're in love with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
And actually
Mhm,
reading the book was helpful for me to put myself in her shoes because
mhm,
it's like here's this girl that's like in love with this guy who doesn't love her back,
mhm.
who probably is never going to get there. I can see how some things could be more hurtful than they were ever intended to be
Right.
for the simple reason that there was no love there, you know?
Mhm.
Um, I think one example that, you know, Emily read this and was like, "Can you explain this to me?"
Mhm.
Was about the getting dressed thing. You wanna talk about that?
Yeah, so there was one thing where she says, Sheik would, get dressed to go to things without me and just leave me at home. And there was one instance where he was in a suit and he said, oh, don't you wish? I bet this is hard for you that you can't come with me. Basically saying that he would just leave her at home and that she, wasn't allowed to come out with him and stuff and that he was going out and partying, etc.
I had events that,
That were with his
that I
friends.
did
I want
that.
Gotcha.
well, why don't you say what actually happened there?
Yeah, so, this is one of those things that, like, it did happen. The story did happen, but I just don't know that I would have, like, seen it from her point of view if I hadn't read the book. So, I was getting ready to attend an event, and it was, like, a formal event, like, invite only type of thing. So, I was wearing a suit, and I couldn't bring her. It just wasn't, the sort of event where I could bring an extra person. And I made the joke where I'm like, it's not every day that you get dressed up in a suit, or maybe, you might get dressed up more than I do, but I'm like getting dressed up and I'm like, looking better than normal. And I'm like, oh, it must just kill you, huh? Seeing me like this, like in this suit, like total joking around. But in my, putting myself in her shoes, I'm like, okay, so here's a girl who probably prior to being on the show, maybe wasn't invited to that many fun, cool things. I mean, she was living in the suburbs, right? She was or not even the suburbs. She was living in Bloomington, Illinois, hours away from Chicago. Maybe, maybe that was an upsetting thing, right? Here's this
Right.
guy that's like getting dressed in a suit and like nice watch, nice shoes, and going out. I wouldn't have realized that because I can make that same joke today with Emily.
Well, he
Emily,
doesn't go anywhere without me anyway.
well, if I was, I would still make that joke to her, right? Like she's in her PJs, I'm like wearing a freaking suit, and I'm like, it must just kill you seeing me like
Yeah, well,
this.
that wouldn't fly.
You know what I mean? But
But
it's
yeah.
like a
Yeah.
joke.
Well, it sounds like
But
you guys were just on two different pages anyway, and it also seems like you're
Mhm.
trying to like understand her perspective a little bit. So reading this book
Yeah.
maybe gave you a little bit of closure on the experience, and
Mhm.
obviously you've been over the relationship, but at least you're kind of hearing her side of things. So what was like the
Mhm.
most difficult thing to read that you want to kind of clear up, and then we should kind of move on to our
Mhm.
next topic.
right, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I think I don't know. I think it was just a lot of stretches of the truth, like that. The wedding, more than anything, what led up to the wedding, after the wedding. I kind of already gave you my account. I don't think we need to do that anymore. The only other thing is, you know, she mentions in there that like I licked a drink off of a girl,
Mhm.
and she like made it sound like this appalling thing that like I spilled a drink on a girl and I licked it up off of her. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like something I would do. Like that's something sounds like something Single Shake
Single
has done
shake.
Single shake.
like 100 times. Like that's just kind of how it was
When was the
with our
last time you talked to Deepti?
reunion.
You haven't had any like in
Reunion.
contact with her through like maybe even a third party since then?
Not that I can really think of. I mean, no, she just like really took this victim thing to the max. And I just started really disliking her because of that. Because it's like, hey, this is at my expense now. You know what I mean? That's not how it went down. It's not. But that narrative, clinging to that narrative is giving you clout and opportunities. And like, yeah. So not somebody I want to be friends with, not somebody I like. And I know Emily, you know, we're not
Yeah,
team
it's
deeps
just
over here.
disappointing. And we're excited. Part of doing this episode is that we're like putting it to bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like we have a lot of projects that we're working on. And, even, I think Shake would be a great like host of something sometime.
Can
Like
you
we're
imagine?
working on a bunch of different things right now. And, luckily now after the altar is finally out and it's
It's over.
finally
It's
over.
over.
Yeah, so what I'm kind of getting from you guys, I think, then, and all the naysayers kind of need to hear that you guys are just, saying your piece on After the Altar. You want to
Mhm.
transition your podcast into doing other reality show recaps and just talking about your life and just kind of put this all to bed, especially with Deep D's book coming back, just kind of coming out, just kind of clearing up your side of things and what was written about you
Exactly.
and just move on and really probably not talk about this cast anymore or much going on since it's over. I mean, I think
It's
Exactly.
over, thank God.
some of them we'll see on a couple upcoming Netflix shows, I believe, in the near future.
Mhm.
So that should be exciting to kind of see what happens. But this has been a very long season, so I think for the fans,
Mhm.
everyone's just excited that it's kind of at least put a close on things, and we're starting
Yeah.
to get all these statements rolling in one at a time.
Exactly. No
Absolutely.
one's happier to put it all behind than us. Honestly, we really are.
Yeah,
And
especially me. I think me even more than Shake. Like, so sick of hearing these people's names. I can't wait for it to be like over for good. I guess it finally is. So,
yeah, and we
yeah.
want to we want to give our input on some of the shows coming out.
Mhm.
Um, Actually, even Love Is Blind. I mean, I know I was pretty harsh on how I kind of spoke about people on this season. And it's because I was so personally involved. But I think it'll be easier to take more of an objective view for the
Mhm.
future seasons. And there's actually 5 seasons already filmed of Love is Blind. So that's show's not going anywhere. There's plenty of seasons to
It's
come out.
not.
And here's something for you, Zach. A lot of contestants from seasons 3, 4, 5, they've DM'd me privately because they feel they they can kind of see this happening. They're like, "Hey,
Mhm.
I'm not getting a fair edit here. I see what they're trying to do. I see what they're trying to push me into." And they kind
They're
of,
itching.
yeah,
Yeah.
they saw me standing up for myself, and like they want me as an ally because I went through it, and I'm gonna be we're gonna be here
Mhm.
for a few more seasons to give us or give the viewers our opinions.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm not
already
going.
heard about some drama that happened from a couple from season 3 and 4, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
Netflix really needs to just air these sooner. Like, you
They
cannot stretch this
do.
out. It's not even fair to these couples from
Too
season
long.
5 who might even be married that this might not even air
Right.
until like 2024. Or like they really
Yeah.
just need to put out a few seasons pretty quickly because it's just it doesn't give fans like updated um like results of like what actually is going on, just like the timeline. And I think that Love is Blind is actually going to start to lose its audience if they really stretch this out again,
Agreed.
because I think a lot
Oh,
of people were really frustrated how After the Altar was just so delayed.
Absolutely, and we're excited to kind of provide a little bit of commentary, throughout, so that'll be maybe part of our podcast as well.
yeah, this season we are focusing more on reality TV. We have some Bravo shows.
Mhm.
We got some shows on TLC, other Netflix shows. So having Emily on here is fun because we get the female perspective. I know I
Exactly.
spoke a lot this time, and the rest of the season won't be like that. It'll be more 50-50 just
Yeah,
because, we're equal in on this.
I'm
So we're
excited.
really excited. And, we'll have you on again for sure.
Absolutely, and thanks again, Zach. We love you, and you've been such a good friend to us, so, we really appreciate what you do, for everyone kind of involved in this
Yeah.
weird world that we're
Hmm.
Yeah.
in.
And I do want to say, like, you guys have always been great to me. I feel like I've enjoyed getting to know you guys. I am friendly
Oh,
with some other people on the cast, but that doesn't
mhm.
necessarily like, halt my own opinion on anyone or even what on you guys. No matter what you say about them or what they
Absolutely.
say about you or what's in the media, like I'm always happy to give everyone the benefit of the doubt and hear everyone out and kind of just help everyone get their truth out, and not really take sides, but also give my opinion based on what I see
Yeah,
publicly. And, there is a lot of tea that happens behind the scenes that I'm privy to that I don't post and
right,
I don't really
Yeah.
engage with. And I think that is kind of
right.
what is my page is all about. If you guys want to follow
Mhm.
me over here at Zachary
Please.
Reality, that's kind of what my videos are about, breaking down these episodes and just giving commentary about what's public. And I think that that's just kind of a way to get to know me better as well, like just kind of saying that.
Definitely follow Zachary Reality on
He's the
Insta, on
best.
TikTok. He's even bigger on TikTok than Insta. And then Zach, villains are always welcome on this podcast.
Always.
Send him our
So send them
way.
our way. We always want to give the underdog an opportunity to clear the air. So again, thank you so much, Zach. And for everybody listening, welcome back to season 2 of Life is Blurry. We'll see you next time.
See ya.